Sometimes, the biggest earthquakes make no noise. They creep up slowly, beneath our feet, reshaping the landscape before anyone fully realizes what's happened. That's exactly what just happened in the global tech world. There was no dramatic headline, no single bombshell announcement, but somewhere deep within China's policy machine, a quiet decision was made, and it may have just altered the fate of one of America's most iconic companies, Intel. This isn't a story about a sudden market crash or a headline-grabbing cyber attack. It's about strategy, resilience, and a fundamental shift in the global balance of tech power. And if you care about where your computers, phones, and future come from, you'll want to stay with us. If you find this topic eye-opening, hit that like button and share this video with others who want to understand where tech is really heading. It helps a lot. In late 2023, something seemingly ordinary happened. China released new procurement guidelines called Chuang, translated as IT innovation. In late 2023, something seemingly ordinary happened. China released new procurement guidelines called Chuang, translated as IT innovation. But beneath the bureaucratic language lay a disruptive intent to quietly remove American chips from the country's core systems and replace them with Chinese alternatives. This wasn't a press conference-style proclamation. It was stealthy. Step by step, agencies and state-owned firms were told to prioritize homegrown tech. Over time, Intel, AMD, and Micron chips began disappearing from order sheets across Chinese institutions. The effect? A slow-motion landslide. Intel, a company that once generated over a quarter of its revenue from China, found its footing suddenly unstable. Contracts disappeared, orders dwindled, and Wall Street noticed. The numbers don't lie. By the end of 2024, Intel's stock performance had plummeted, shedding tens of billions in market value. This wasn't just a business blip. It signaled something deeper, a loss of strategic relevance. For decades, Intel led the charge in computing. But now, a key piece of its foundation, its China business, was being yanked away. The world's second-largest economy had decided to move on. What happens when your biggest customer decides it no longer needs you? Intel used to be unbeatable. Back in 2011, it held nearly 80% of the global PC processor market. But innovation waits for no one. While rivals like AMD surged forward with smaller, faster chips, Intel stumbled. Production delays, outdated architecture, and a sluggish response to custom silicon trends eroded its lead. That heavy dependence left Intel exposed. Tech giants like Apple and Amazon began designing their own chips, leaving Intel in the dust. And then came the over-reliance on China. In 2023, China accounted for nearly 27% of Intel's revenue. That heavy dependence left Intel exposed. When Beijing turned off the tap, the company was left scrambling. How do you innovate when your biggest revenue stream just vanished? As Intel was losing ground, China was gaining it. Huawei, once written off due to U.S. sanctions, released the Mate 70 Pro powered by a surprisingly advanced 7nm Kirin chip. It wasn't made with cutting-edge tools, just clever engineering. SMIC, China's leading foundry, pulled it off using older DUV machines and complex layering. The Mate 70 Pro wasn't just functional, it was a commercial hit. Over 45 million units sold in 6 months. Huawei followed up with MateBook laptops using the same homegrown chips. SMIC's revenues surged 47% year-over-year, fueled by state-backed demand. Who needs access to the latest Western tools when you can build your own? This tech shift is massive, and we want to hear from you. Do you think China will truly become self-reliant in semiconductors by 2027? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What made China's strategy even clearer was its deadline: full independence from U.S. source chips by 2027. The Clean Silicon Initiative outlines a full-scale purge of American technology from sensitive sectors. Already, over 75% of China's critical infrastructure, from telecom to defense, has begun using local chips. To make it happen, the Chinese state has pledged over 660 billion yuan, around $91 billion US, to fund domestic chipmakers. This is more than policy. It's an economic transformation. As government money and purchasing power flood into Chinese chip firms, foreign players like Intel are being squeezed out entirely. In Washington, alarm bells rang. The CHIPS and Science Act was passed, injecting $52.7 billion into U.S. chip manufacturing. Intel became one of the main beneficiaries, receiving $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion in loans to build a huge new plant in Ohio. Dubbed the Silicon Heartland, the Ohio project symbolizes America's effort to reclaim leadership. But building chip fabs is no overnight task. Delays in zoning and construction have pushed its opening to late 2026, nearly a year behind schedule. Meanwhile, TSMC plans to begin 3nm chip production in Arizona by Q3 2025, while Samsung and TSMC eye 2nm milestones. Intel, still working on its 18A process, is falling behind. Intel has already felt the squeeze. In early 2025, it laid off 1,250 workers, mostly in Oregon and California. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They were real lives, affected by a tectonic shift in global demand. PC manufacturers like HP and Dell are warning of cost increases. As Intel loses scale, it has to raise prices. Laptop prices are expected to climb 12% to 17%. Data centers and cloud services that depend on Intel are facing the same issue. The chip war isn't just political, it's now hitting your wallet. Investor confidence is waning. Intel stock has underperformed the PHLX semiconductor index by 31% over the past year. Goldman Sachs downgraded the stock, citing poor margins and execution delays. Even big deals like Intel's $8.2 billion contract with Amazon Web Services haven't reversed the tide. For many investors, the question is no longer when Intel will bounce back, but if it can survive the decade. Former CEO Pat Gelsinger put it bluntly, "This moment isn't about short-term wins. It's about whether Intel can survive the next decade." While Intel fights for relevance, China is going global. It's not just replacing American chips at home. It's setting a template for the world. Countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and even parts of Europe are exploring partnerships and learning from China's tech independence strategy. The U.S. has responded by tightening export controls, limiting AI chip sales to China, but those controls only deepen China's resolve to innovate. Meanwhile, Beijing is preparing countermeasures, like restricting exports of rare earths such as gallium. If China starts controlling the materials behind chips, who really controls the future of tech? The chip war isn't just about silicon, it's about who controls tomorrow's digital infrastructure. China has made it clear, it wants a future built on self-reliance. Intel, once the king of that future, now finds itself playing catch-up. This isn't just about one company or even one industry. It's about a new global tech order, one being written in real time, and far away from Silicon Valley. If you found this breakdown valuable, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss our updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. The question isn't whether Intel can recover. It's whether the world it once dominated still exists. Because if China's tech revolution continues on its current path, the next chapter of innovation might be written in Mandarin.